Good morning. I start this morning by explaining that quote I posted yesterday from Epictetus. Some call him Epictetus. I used to call him Epictetus, but his name is Epictetus. And it said, "A small mind blames themselves. Small minds blame themselves. Average minds blame others, and the wise man sees all blame as foolishness." Now, I suppose if you don't sort of understand this is a fundamental understanding, and what I think is a good place to start when it comes to, as I said, you must have an understanding of metaphysics in order to manage your emotions. Other than that, it's all bullshit. So when I would be doing the philosophy, I don't do so much now on Facebook because I'm more or less like well, sure, there comes a point, there comes a saturation point, as someone said to me before, there comes a saturation point. It's not that I've reached a saturation point, it's just that I'm busy at the moment with other things. Uh, but I used to be in search of truth, and some people used to say to me, there's no absolute truths. Now, everything is a choice what you choose to believe or not choose to believe, but everything is subject to reason. So really, like, it's what you choose to believe. But as I say, this is why I'm not a fan of faith. I say, like, everything is subject to reason. Everything with me is subject to reason. It's not that somebody's going to tell me something and I say, oh yeah, oh, I'm going to accept that. No, it's subject to reason. Everything with me is subject to reason. So there's one absolute truth that I'm sure of, and that is that God controls everything. And that for me is an absolute truth. This much I know from empirical knowledge and from reading and videos and philosophy, but from my own knowledge, from my own soul, I know one thing: God controls everything. And then before we could where that brings us then is our concept of God, because, like, my concept of God is very different to say most people's concept of God. And again, this is due to reason, and this is to I know God, because God talks to me, and well, that's who teaches me the philosophies. Both God and my soul teach me the philosophy. So if we were to agree on a concept of God, the universe is God, nature is God, because everything is energy, so everything is God. This is one of the first things God said to me: everybody is God. And this might be very hard to understand, but if we switch to a physics model, we can say that where everything is atoms. You're a configuration of atoms, I'm a configuration of atoms. If I move my hand, I'm displacing atoms, so there's no empty space between us. This is, if you like, an organic simulation. And it's all just energy, because matter equals mc squared, matter is energy stored. But the question then is, who controls all the energy? Now, the Stoics say that the universe is a living organism, and it is a living organism because it's alive and breathing and everything else. It's a living organism. Now, it could be controlled externally by an alien force. As I say, it could be even a two-player game, two aliens playing a game. Or as one man said to me, it could be a 70-year-old woman's dream. But regardless of this, life is perception, and it's still for us an experience. But yet when you seek to understand it, that is one thing I can assure you, that God controls everything. But as I say, then it's down to your concept of God. So again, if we go back to the physics model, and we say, like the agnostics say, oh, we can know. And I say, yeah, but there's certain fundamental truths that we can know, that we cannot establish using science, that we can establish as fundamental truths. For example, that you're a configuration of atoms and I'm a configuration of atoms, and that the elements provide the foundation of our objective reality. Outside, or despite what we think it is, outside our subjective reality is what we think it is, but there is an objective reality, what it actually is. For example, there is a configuration of atoms here that makes this a table. This table is here. It's not an illusion. The table is here. The table is here. Like, I can't walk through the table. Now, some people, for example, my old mentor used to say that everything is nearly empty space. Now, this is the Buddhist spin. Everything is empty space, and atom's 99% empty space, so everything's nearly empty space. That's not true. Everything is a culmination of matter and antimatter, and antimatter has the same properties of matter. That's why you can't walk through the table. But anyway, between the quarks, I'm going to tell you this again, between the quarks you have electromagnetic fields. So this would be comprised of the quarks being the smallest subatomic particle that we can actually prove. Everything outside that, quantum physics, is possibility and probability, including bosons and everything else. But anyway, so we have weak nuclear force, strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force and gravitational force. Now the culmination of them is called 0-point energy. Now this controls everything that happens in the universe, everything. This is what decides what molecules come together, what the molecules break down and decay. Everything is in a constant state of flux, but it's determined and controlled by these four fundamental forces. And this is why I say God controls everything. Now, since mind is part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and the electromagnetic spectrum is part of the 0-point energy field, this permeates everything. It permeates this table, permeates this cup, permeates this chair. Hence, we say everything is God. This is why we say this electromagnetic field that controls everything. The four fundamental forces, cumulatively known as 0-point energy, controls everything. This is why we say God controls everything. God controls everything. But God is nature. It permeates everything. So nature is God. God is the universe. It's one and the same. So when you hear me talk about the universe, we're talking about God, and then we start to break it down from this then into an understanding of nature. If you want to understand God, you have to understand nature, and then you have to understand. Then you get into a breakdown of nature, and the first place you ought to start with this is nature is comprised of binary opposites, ambiguities, paradoxes, and hierarchical systems. Yeah, binary opposites, paradoxes, ambiguities, and hierarchical systems. Yes, that's a good place to start. And then you can start to understand each one of these. Understanding the binary opposites, as a girl said to me last night. Oh yes, duality. Everything's duality. It's not duality. Everything is not duality, because you have to break out of the black and white thinking, out of duality thinking, the masculine and feminine, the evil and good and evil, good and bad, good and evil. You have to break out of this duality, this black and white thinking, because there's 50 shades of grey between each binary. So it's not just black and white, there's 50 shades of grey. There's a broad spectrum between each binary. And when you start to think like this, then you're getting places. Then you're getting to understand nature, and a good place to start with this is with yourself. Where am I positioned on each binary? But for this, you have to first sort out the different binaries and the different characteristic traits and everything else. There has to be an interpretation of opposites, and then you can have an interpenetration of opposites, which is dialectics. Dialectics is an interpenetration of opposites, negation of the negation, and the transformation of quantity into quality. This is dialectics. The three rules of dialectics. That's Engels. So basically, this is why Epictetus said, blame nobody, realise how little control you actually have. But while it's important to realise what is not within your control, which is quite a lot, it is also important not to relinquish what control we do have. So for this, we don't do like the Buddhists, or like a German man said to me the other night, the best life is if you surrender your free will. Surrender your free will, just accept that you've no free will. And I said, no fucking way, mate, no fucking way. But tomorrow we'll start to talk about what is within our control. Because in order not to relinquish what is within our control, you first must understand what exactly is and is not within our control. So I'll talk about this tomorrow. But for today, I want to tell you a story, because I might just have time to tell you a story which I want to tell you, which might help you with your understanding. In Sparta, they used to, this is why I say don't impose your morality on nature. In Sparta, they used to send the young soldiers out. They used to bring the boys at 6 and 7 years of age and join the army. And they used to send them out to rob food. to steal their food. That's what the boys had to do. They had to go and steal their food. And if they were caught robbing the food, they were beaten. And not because they were robbing the food, but because they were caught robbing the food. So when I was in Turkey, my soul, because I am a child of Minerva, Julius Caesar used to say he was a son of Mars, which he was a son of Mars. And I'm telling you, I'm a child of Minerva. So this is, you can make that distinction yourself. You can look up yourself who Minerva is. But I am a child of Minerva. And my soul used to say to me, you have to embrace the dark side, you have to break the dark side. And the reason for this is you have to learn how to use the dark side, and you have to become fearless. And you have to overcome all fears and be fearless and relentless. So it used to say to me, this is Sparta! This is Sparta! You know, and it used to say to me to go and rob me food because I wasn't going to beg for it. And it used to leave me with no food, so I said, go on, take the fucking food. So I used to go and I used to rob the food. And after 4 or 5, maybe a bit more, actually a bit more, but at one stage then I started getting kicking every time because it said to me, no, don't go to the same place twice. So I used to have to walk miles and miles and miles. After a while I used to have to walk miles and miles and miles not to go to the same place twice. So eventually I just said, fuck this, I'm going to this place again. They'll hardly remember me, but I ended up getting a kicking because I didn't listen. So I got a kicking and I got a kicking, and then after this I got another kicking, and then I got another kicking, and at one stage then I was so resilient because I could have said to myself, oh fuck this, oh that's terrible, what did you do that for, and I did say, what the fuck did you do that for? And I said, consequence for actions. And I says, right. And I said, but I'm still going to take my tea. I said, I've no tea, I'm going to take my tea. And then I remember came out of one shop after getting a kicking, a big fight broke out, and I got out to fight. I got out, big fight breaks out between all the employees and everything else. So someone kicks off, and I kick it off anyway. But the big fight kicks off anyway, and I do get away in the melee, and fucking... So anyway, one lad chased me into the market, and it was a big massive row, big kicking and everything else, and I got arrested. And then like the universe kept saying to me, you know, if you don't get the message stays getting louder. So after I got the kicking and gotten arrested, I said to the universe, fuck this, I'm not that hard for a bit of food. I'm not doing that anymore, we have enough of that now. I said, you can feed me or let me die, this is up to you, but I'm not doing that anymore. And this is thinking for yourself. This is, you know what I mean? But I just said, feed me or let me die. That's over. I said, I'm not stealing any more food. So that was grand. Then I found that the boys who were selling the summits, these round rings of bread, they started to give me the summits, whatever summits they didn't sell by evening time, they started to give me. So now there'd be a surplus, like, so I used to take 10 every night, and then I would leave the rest in a bag for other people, you know. So the summits then, you see, they used to cut some of the summits in half, and they used to put cheese on some, and they used to put chocolate spread on others, and others were just plain. But of course then when they didn't sell the summits at the end of the night, the first thing I used to do was look for the chocolate ones and the cheese ones, and then I'd resort to the plain ones, and bought 10 in total, you know. Everything in moderation, as I say, temperance in all things. So 10 was just enough to get me through the next day. But anyway, this night I went to the thing, because you didn't often get the chocolate ones, because everybody bought the chocolate ones. You might get one chocolate one or two chocolate ones. But this particular night I went to the thing, there was about 5 chocolate ones, or 4 or 5 chocolate ones. And my soul said to me, 2 chocolate ones is enough. I was taking all the chocolate ones, of course. And then the cheese ones says, 2 chocolate ones is enough. And I said, no, I don't care what you say, I'm taking all the chocolate ones. I don't fuck what you say, I'm taking the chocolate ones. So I took all the chocolate ones, and then I came along, and I was delighted with myself. And I tell you the truth, after this bit of revolt, if you like, the chocolate ones never tasted better. So there I was, sitting eating one of the chocolate ones, delighted with myself. And I left it down. I just took one bite out of it, and I left it down where I was sitting. On this, I was sitting on this where I planted trees, you know, and I left it down there, turned away for a minute, and I reached back for the thing like that, and turned around. The fuck is that? The whole thing was covered in cockroaches. The whole thing. Now, when I mean not one cockroach or 2 cockroaches, now I have never seen a cockroach in Turkey up to this point. But the whole thing was covered in cockroaches, and I was fucking amazed. I said, is this an illusion? Is this even real? And I was absolutely amazed. And it's at this point I realised that every living creature says the same what do you call it? Consciousness. Shares the same stream of consciousness. Every living creature shares the same stream of consciousness. So I said, fucking hell, what did you do that for? You destroyed my fucking bun. You destroyed my stomach, you know what I mean? You destroyed my food. But at the same time, I was amazed. I was amazed. So I went off for a walk and I said to myself, I'm going to have to come back and look at that again. And I came back and something was in the bin, but there was loads of holes gone over where the cockroaches had eaten it, lumps of it. But this so it was real, and I made sure it was real. It was not an illusion. I may go, bye.